All right, all right, all right.
Yo, yo.
Yep,
What up?
and we're on.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Just looking at some quartering receipts. Have you ever? I haven't watched a lot of his content, but I feel like there's probably some good content there. Dunking on him.
We'll have to check that shit out. You,
Yeah, we need to get more. I'm telling you, we need to get more into the debunking right wing propagandist racket. I feel like
yeah, yeah. You
there's a
know,
lane there.
my favorite shit's still when they go accidentally left wing and they make a like what was it that there was that congressman that talked about why we shouldn't do a public option is because the government plan is going to be too popular.
Who said that?
There was a congressman a few months back. He was making a case against a public option, saying that we can't have a public option because then everyone is going to want to be in the government plan because it's going to be more affordable. Yo, what's going on, John? Got John up in the chat over here.
What Yeah, like they know that'll happen. If there's a public option,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you probably remember from the primary what'll happen, right? All the people who need the most care will end up on the public option because it'll be too expensive for them to do private
Right.
stuff, and then
Yeah.
the people who don't need care will have private, will have the remaining private stuff. So it'll push all the sick and old people onto the government's plan, and that'll
Yes.
cost a fortune, and then it'll bankrupt it. I mean, depending
But
on how they fund it, but
yeah,
they'll
but
underfund it
it's
too, like everything else.
right. But I mean, it's like anything else. When with if there's a cheaper alternative to buying your own insurance, then people are gonna go to that one just because there. His argument was it would ruin the free market because you'd have an unfair price point with the public plan.
I mean, I don't know why it's unfair. I don't know how they describe that.
Well, that's why
You
it would
know,
be. It's an accidental left wing take.
um,
But
well,
uh,
they need it. It would be if it's that's why nobody does the public option.
right.
You can do that if you like they try to point to oh, Medicare for all is actually it's further left than most of the other countries' plan,
Uh huh.
right? Because they other countries allow private insurance, like Germany and Australia and all,
Uh huh.
and it's because they don't have the situation we have where the private insurance companies are so powerful that they can basically
Price gouge the shit out of you.
pressure. Yeah, they can affect the market. They
Right.
can do stuff that'll um, they can, but not they all do price fixing. They
Mm-hmm.
all
And they all divvy up the regions of the country too. Like they won't compete
exactly.
with each other, but they won't cross states. Like they'll say, all right, this is your territory.
Well, that's one of the
That
things that
it's kind
chuds
of
always
like
point to. They
that's
always say
it's,
oh, we need to let them sell insurance over state lines. That's why we need to free up the market. The reason that
yeah.
things are expensive is actually because the government is too involved,
Mm-hmm.
and they have these ridiculous nonsensical rationales for why that is. But
Yeah.
it's just an excuse. It's just the way to. That's what Steven Crowder's always doing, right? He's always blaming something else for this problem. Yeah, I know this problem really sucks, but here's why we have this problem, and then he finds some
And
way
then
to
he finds a way to
blame it.
blame.
Yeah, he'll blame it on like I don't know if you saw that clip of him talking about
uh,
the relieving college debt. That's what he kept doing, just putting it to it's actually the schools that are corrupt, and it's actually the government's fault for being too involved, and
for
just
being okay. Yeah.
it's the reason that those things happen. It's just he's lucky that the people who watch those shows don't understand any like any of the economic factors that
Right.
cause the market to be the way it is, because it's like if anybody had even like a cursory knowledge of how the market and the government function together, or like how like loans work, like it doesn't make any sense, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the only reason you can do it is because no one knows any better. Let me
Yeah.
tweet this out.
All right. Um. Well, do you want to go ahead and start with Pelosi? I know you're excited.
Uh,
I know you're excited to know that she's going to be coming back, bro.
yeah, it's what's that?
It's
What's that quote? What did Hakeem say about her?
uh, what was it? I can't remember.
Oh, um,
Let's see.
uh,
Well, let me go. Let's go to this one. Here we go. All right, there she is, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, reelected as Democratic leader,
yeah, man, she's such a fighter. We're so lucky.
master legislator. She's amazing. She's a master at getting reelected despite horrible down ballot performances.
Well, um, I mean, the way I said about it was like
Mm-hmm.
it, the like the right wing Democrats, like the one of the reasons why they're keep going further right is because they keep providing cover for each other, right? Like Biden was the nominee because he can make Pelosi look like she's actually, like, if not progressive, then at least like she's not like working for the other team, because it's like it really looks from the outside like she's just like coordinating with the Republicans, right? Like it looks like
Yeah.
she's like purposely running the caucus the way she does so that it keeps everything purposely hamstrung, right? So we have Biden in there, who's like even more of a pseudo Republican,
Yeah.
who like
Look, look at what it says here,
here,
bro.
let's watch this clip.
See, let me read this first. The fact that Pelosi is expected to remain on as speaker is a sign of how strong her hold is over the House Democrats, even after suffering disappointing losses in the 2020 election.
Well,
And
it's because
Pelosi's
anybody
remained.
who would counter that will be squashed, right?
Yeah,
Like it's like the devil is better because she's old, and there's like if you have like Hakeem came in and he would be younger
right.
and just as bad at politics, so that we would have to have a harder time getting him out in 2 years. If like they're never going to let a progressive run the caucus, right?
Uh huh.
I don't think that's likely, but
Yeah,
you
and
know
that's why they're trying to do those reforms to the Progressive Caucus to at least have something of a foothold without these centrists trying to go ahead and meddle into their shit. But this was the line that got me. Like, Pelosi has remained defiant even after the losses, telling reporters last week, "I take credit for winning a majority and holding the House."
yeah,
Oh,
she's
great.
so like
Oh,
her and
great.
Feinstein too. They're so like it's like they're in the bubble to such an extent that like you can't criticize them at all. Like you saw it with Wolf Blitzer,
Mm-hmm.
like they are so insulated from the actual problems anywhere, that they think that they're doing a bang up job, right? They think that like of course we're doing great. Why would I take credit for any losses? Like we're killing it. It's like
Jesus.
meanwhile these lines to the food banks are out of control. New York City had to
But do you
cancel
feed them,
in-person
Matt?
school
Do you
again.
feed them?
We feed them. We feed them, Wolf. Like if you're ever arguing about like who's more
Oh,
charitable, or
Jesus,
like
man.
you should know that you're not in a good place. Like you can't. There's no way to win an argument on national TV about like who's more charitable. It's like if you catch yourself doing that, you should probably take a step back, right? Like
Yeah.
that's never a good look. Um,
Well, let's go to this the tweet that you put out here, bro. And let me see. We should probably move over to the side. There we go. Yeah, Joe Biden is a nominee because he's the only name brand Democrat that let Pelosi keep pretending to be any of that bullshit.
A voice
So,
for the voiceless, a
oh,
defender of the disenfranchised.
yeah. So there was oh,
What's
why am I
poppin'?
getting an ad here? Stupid ad.
What's
But I mean,
popping?
beforehand, Jeffries was it looked like for a little bit trying to take her spot. That's
Yeah.
why. That's kind of why this is important to look at it at all. But all right, let's
He
see what.
doesn't care.
Let,
Like he'd like to be speaker to like, do more like careerism, right? To like
yeah.
self-aggrandize himself, but like it's not like he has any ideological difference. It's like
No,
the people
it's.
have like
But
their
I mean, don't Democrats aren't like libs tired of seeing her out there now? Like, aren't they just tired? But
no,
or
they fucking love her, man. They yes queen. She clapped. Remember, she
oh
clapped funny.
shit. Well, let's see Hakeem Jeffries out here.
We are unified in our sense of purpose to go out, to work closely with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to fight for the people, to make life better for working families, middle-class folks, senior citizens, young people, veterans, those who aspire to be part of the middle class, the poor, the sick, the afflicted, the least, the lost, and the left behind. That's what House Democrats do. Nancy Pelosi, a voice for the voiceless, a defender of the disenfranchised, a
Oh.
legendary legislator, a notorious
Oh.
negotiator,
Oh
and a
Jesus.
powerful, profound, prophetic, principled public servant, Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Sweet Jesus,
Thank
man.
you so much, Mr. Chairman, for your kind words. I always accept any
Do you think she
compliments
wrote
on
that
behalf
herself and made
of the
him
House
read it?
Democratic Caucus because they
One of her
enable
assistants,
any of what we
probably.
do to be possible by their courage, their integrity, and their just beautiful vision for a better America.
I am pleased to look to the 117th Congress,
Yeah.
but I'm focused
He-
on the 116th Congress. We need to get work done for the American people they need right now.
We must, in this Congress,
Oh,
Fucking
there he
Clyburn.
is. Fucking
the
Clyburn.
dreams and aspirations of the children and their families,
Man, I
Yeah,
look
they
forward to
normalize
seeing all
each
the
other.
motherfuckers getting primaried out.
that we
Yeah.
can work together within our caucus and reaching out across the aisle to get done what needs to be done for the American people.
And I can tell you this about our caucus. We are the guardians of people's hopes and aspirations.
No, you're not.
And
No, you're
we
not.
are going to be the unified engine for change.
Yeah. Unified engine for change. I'm gonna
Oh,
make that
no.
my new handle. Um,
What are they talking about? What do they go out there and jerk each other off publicly? Like if it makes a difference.
they normalize each other. right,
That's
that's
what
what they
this
do.
is, right?
It's like they're all so terrible and they're all so old and decrepit and like can't think straight. But
Ugh.
when they're all like, that's who we always see, right? Is them. Like those are the only voices of the party, so they all kind of seem normal because they're all so fucking crazy. Like,
Yeah.
they're all so bad at their job.
And they're all like getting picked off too. I mean, look, we're still. I mean, that's one thing with these races. I'm glad we're kind of picking off that leadership because Joe Crowley would have been up there too, or one of these, or Lacey Clay.
What did she say? Unified engine for hope.
For unified engine for change.
Yeah.
Unified engine for change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got rid of Crowley. That's good. But
Yeah, and then talking about Lacey Clay got ousted. So I mean, I think, do you think to some degree they're bitter also about that all their boys and their colleagues that they worked with forever are getting ousted by these young upstart Democrats that are just much more getting. I mean, they get popular so quickly too. I mean, when on that list that we looked at, wasn't AOC even above Pelosi already? Yeah, she was, right? I mean, that has to sting a little bit.
Yeah.
They dedicate their whole they dedicate their whole shit to to politics, and then these young congressmen come in, and people like them right away. But I mean, it's because of what they're doing. It's because of what they stand for. You know, they're not afraid to go ahead and be open about standing by their principles, and people gravitate towards that. They gravitate towards these people being genuine and actually wanting to listen to their constituencies.
I'm just so sick of them playing dumb. It's like, your messaging is not working because there is nothing there. Nobody likes that, like that vague, just like we're, like that, whatever they're running on, right? That we're not Trump, like
Yeah.
we're decent, like we're looking out, like we're a unified engine of hope, like all that
What the
shit
hell does that
not
mean?
work. Nobody likes that.
Nobody
the
likes
only
that
people
shit.
who
It's
tolerate
stupid.
it are the people who are in your team already. Like you're not going to attract new voters with anything like that. You're not going to inspire young people. You're not going to, convince people to change parties or to, become involved again. You're not. You're just going to confirm what you already have, and you're dwindling, your dwindling base of support, right? It's a bad strategy, and they have to know that, right? Like,
I mean, do they have to know? I mean, they have to know how boring they fucking are. I mean,
well, like, I don't even care if they're boring, but like, they could be boring if they were saying like this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna fight for, we're gonna submit this proposal.
You mean
and then
they
we're
could
gonna primary
they could
this,
boringly fight for the right things? You mean is what you're
yeah,
saying?
that'd be fine. I wouldn't mind that shit. And like, I would still say not to do that. Like, say they had good policy proposals, and that's why people were voting for them, and then they still were doing like the decency, like soul of America shit. Like, if they were still doing that, right? I would want them to not do that because it's bad. It's bad strategy. It's like bad tactics. But it wouldn't matter as much. But like, they do that now because they think it covers up for their lack of an agenda or a vision, and it doesn't, right? Like, voters see through that. Like, they're so lucky they barely pulled this off, and like, they're not going to be able to win another election like that, right? They're going to lose more seats in 2022, and it's just sad because like the country really needs them, right? It really needs a Democratic Party to counter this death cult on the right.
Yeah, well, let's see. We got a couple questions over here in the chat, Matt. So the first thing is Biden gonna make COVID better?
Um.
In the immediate,
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. Where's that? Look, we're gonna get to that story later.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, like, they need to have a strategy. Like, you need to have, like, he's not going to be able to do anything. Like, he's not going to be able to convince anybody to take more precautions, right? Because it's such a heated culture war, right?
And that's the bigger problem. The problem isn't what the government's doing or what the policies are so much as the people behind actually average people that are bought into the culture war that will go and talk about my rights. Actually, we should play this video from Humus Report that talked about these people up there in was it South Dakota that they're going to the death, talking about this is a COVID hoax, this is a Chinese hoax, as they slowly lower the fucking mask over them so they could keep breathing.
Yeah, the thing is though, like, in a lot of ways they lost credibility though. Like, they lost, like.
But I think that something like
you can't tell people to stay in and then not. You can't tell people they're not allowed to work and then not give them any money. It makes no sense that they thought that would work.
That's a whole different problem, But as far as national mask mandates and stuff like that, I mean, sure, Biden could do something like that to the extent that he's able, but I mean, it's still going to come down to a lot of people having to make the right decisions when they're not right now, and who's to say? I mean, when the vaccine comes out, those same people that aren't wearing masks are probably going to be more likely not to take a vaccine, and so that's the larger problem.
Yeah, like the larger problem is not spending any money.
Yeah.
So like even if they don't want to give people another check, there's plenty of like local and like health and human services. There's plenty of government programs that desperately need money that would help, right? Like they might, even if they don't give us another check, because who knows? Like, I mean, they're not going to be able to get much through. They're not really, like maybe they can work something out, but I don't see any reason why the Republicans would.
No,
would
they're not
go
going
for
to.
it.
They're not going to do that in the lame duck. But let's go to the second question here.
No, I'm talking about in
Biden's
even
administration.
in February. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know if
no,
Biden's
they're
gonna be
not.
able to get
If there's
anything
no,
done.
if the Democrats don't get control in Georgia, which I don't think they are,
That's
then they're not
highly
gonna.
unlikely.
Yeah, they're not gonna pass anything. The Republicans are gonna block anything that they try to go ahead and get passed as far as the stimulus bill. But all right, is their objective even to attract people anymore? Was it ever? You see, that's when we're going back to Pelosi and the
like I
Democratic
said,
strategy.
Yeah, we go over this a lot on the show. It's like we can never really determine if they are
All
actually
they want,
working for it or if they're just serving the donors.
No,
and, like they're not actually trying to do anything.
Right,
or they're just trying, but they're really bad at it.
No, what they want is a bunch of just vote blue no matter who brain dead people that watch MSNBC all day.
Yeah.
Just to get reinforced of their worldview. That's what they want. They don't want to go and work to reach more voters or expand their voter base. They want to radicalize more people to just vote blue no matter who.
Well, that's why they had this whole strategy about trying to get Republicans to flip, because in their head, the only people who vote are the people who always vote. You know, it's like 50 and over, right? So they think that that's the electorate, and it's not changing. So they want to get more of that share of the country, right? They want to get more of that, you know, whatever it is, like, you know, 100 million people or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's been their strategy. And after we saw this time with the Republicans getting that record turnout, like they probably might have to rethink that, right? Because it's always the you know, historically, like the you know, the common knowledge was that high turnout Republicans suffer, right? The more people that vote, the more democratic the process, the more people vote for the Democrats. But that's not necessarily the case, especially with the way that working class is trending towards Republicans, right? So like they are going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something for the people, because there's no, like, the Republicans are expanding their base, right? Like they are getting in new voters. I don't know how, you know, I mean, we could talk about why that is, but like there is no never Trump Republican. There's no sort of like, there's no boomer who's voted Republican their whole life who decides that I think I'm going to vote Democrat now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to change squads when I'm so late in life. But let's see. I'd imagine the only way out of the COVID crisis is the same solution as everything else: an incredible amount of money and corporate sacrifice, which we know isn't going to happen, unfortunately. I'm curious to see how Biden moves forward. Yeah.
The only way to do it is what it's been all along.
Right.
Is to pay people to stay home.
Yeah.
You know, like if we had done that for a couple months.
At least the COVID UBI would make a big difference. You can convince people to stay home if they have money to stay home with. You know, it's irresponsible to go and order a shutdown and no other means to earn money. I mean, look at these people can't sell their stock. You know, they can't. I mean, it's not something that you could do to keep the lights on and keep food on the table.
And they've backstopped the stock prices since the beginning too.
Right.
That was never an issue. There was always when money's been going into the stock market to keep it, you know, level since day one. There's that quantitative easing.
Yeah.
Like the entire stock market's basically socialized, right? It's like too big to fail. So that's not the issue. It's just like I think it's like the moral hazard thing, right? I think it's they don't want to do anything good. They don't want people to expect the government to do things for them. You know? Right.
I mean, yeah, there's that, you know, it's that old, what is that boomer saying that they talk about? Like that, the last thing you want to hear is, I'm from the government, I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's what Reagan said, right?
Yeah.
So the Republicans are like ideologically committed to making the government fail, right?
Yeah.
They want their strategy since the Reagan years has been to underfund everything as much as possible and then constantly point to it and say, see, the government sucks at everything. Like you can't get anything done by them because they're incompetent. Like we need everything has to be private market. That's where all the innovation and the gumption and the determination is all in the private market.
The shining city on the hill and pull yourself up by
So,
your
like,
bootstraps.
Now when we actually, it's a life or death situation, the government has to be competent, the government has to do a good job. They're unwilling to give it the resources to do a good job. And the Democrats, I think most of them have that ideology too, right? I think most of them believe that deep down inside, like, you know, you should have everything privatized as much as possible.
Yeah.
And to the extent that they do, it's more sort of, they're only comfortable doing like means tested technocratic things that are going to specifically go to parts of their base that they are trying to appeal to. So that's why they float the college thing, because they know their base is college educated.
Yeah,
and like
that makes
they
sense.
know that
You
that's
see,
who
that's
they're trying
probably
to serve.
you see, and
right?
that's probably why they're trying to keep people in college, because I mean, let's face it, all this debt to go into school right now, it disincentivizes people from going.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if I was starting now, there's no way I would be going to college. You know.
But
no,
well, let me
we
see.
don't have. That's not how money works, though, right? Like, since the 70s, we got off the gold standard, right? We've had fiat currency, so money is basically its value is agreed upon, right? And we can print as much as we want, right?
Yeah,
like,
and they keep
the value
whining
is
about the
basically how the
deficit and the
market treats
debt.
it. Yeah, exactly.
That's why that's a
more
fake-ass
money than
argument.
we know what to do with, right? But that's what we see is when the Republicans are out of power, they constantly fearmonger about the debt and the deficit.
Right.
And then when they're in power,
the first thing they do is cut
historic
taxes.
military budgets and historic tax cuts for
Yes.
the 1%. You know, what's that stat Kyle always says? Like 83% of the benefits go to the top 1%.
Because look, and then the other part of it is when the Republicans bring in a new tax reform, they always make the top tax tax percentage permanent. They always make it for the 1%. Those changes are permanent, and then the other ones, the ones for the working class that we get affected by more directly, those always lapse. They always go out. And then we ended up, and then whatever tax cut was in the immediate goes away. You know, and then
exactly. Over 10 years, that the Trump tax cuts only their tax cuts are permanent. The working class's tax cuts go away, and not even 10 years. I think in like 3 or 4 years from now,
right?
Basically, starting under Joe Biden, it'll be your taxes will go up, and then they'll blame it on the Democrats. That's another thing they do. Bush did that too. It's like, even though Obama did more tax cuts that actually were for the middle class, and there was a $1,200 stimulus or $800, I forget how much it was.
It was something like that.
But he had it in the check, right? He didn't have it. It wasn't separate. It wasn't like a check with his name on it like Trump did. So people didn't understand that Obama had done that.
Right.
And like the reason he did that was because there was like, you know, scholarship that said people are more likely to save it if it's just in their tax return, right? So like he was doing the right thing, you know, like he was doing it to actually help people, and he didn't brag about it, and it bit him in the ass because people think like, oh, Obama raised my taxes and you know, crashed the economy, right?
Well, see, even with the college thing, they immediately walked it back from 50 to 10. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, and with stipulations, right? So Joe Biden's original plan, what was it, 50,000, and then it was.
Oh wait, just think about the supermarkets too, like, the supermarkets had never been more profitable than they were when we actually had the lockdown, like in the springtime.
Right.
They had record, you know, haul. And what else? Stay open. So you have to pay businesses to stay open. I mean, this is what every other country did, right?
Right.
They paid people to stay home. They backed up the paychecks, right?
Yeah, they at least 75% of the paychecks, right, was in some of those spots. I mean,
most countries did that.
Yeah, if we did what these other countries did, and we're just as capable of doing them, it changes the whole situation as far, because people need to work, because if not, there's no way to keep living. You know? So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem is people have been, and like so many of these like businesses, these like sectors of the economy have been shut down or just been, no shoppers, like no customers, right? Like the entire, every restaurant, every bar, every
yeah,
mall, like all of these stores are making like a fraction of what they usually make now. And it's going to
right.
come to a head like on Black Friday and December when
Yeah, I
people are
mean,
usually buying a
when we
shitload
had
of
a
gifts.
PJ on before, that's what he said too, is because no one's
Yeah.
gonna be able to go shopping. It's like what they it was like that Rick and Morty thing. Nobody's buying
Yeah, like
anything with this fucking virus.
a huge segment of our economy now is service, right?
Right.
There's a dwindling number of white collar jobs, and then the service economy that feeds and clothes them, right?
Hmm.
So like all these malls, they make like half of their yearly profits from Thanksgiving to Christmas, right?
Yeah.
They make a shitload of money just in that 1 month period, and that's not going to come in this year, right?
Hmm.
So most of their forecasting and their financing plans and all, they work it into that so that they're going to make a shitload of money in December, and it's not going to happen this year because people are out of work, right? Buy
There
the
you
train,
go.
Woody.
Yeah, you got it. Buy the
Are out
train,
of
Morty.
work,
You didn't
right?
raise ethical questions. You just looked straight in the
Yeah.
bleeding jaws of capitalism and said, "Yes, Daddy, please."
Yeah, people are out of work, so they can't afford it, and then they're too scared to go to the mall because we've had, like, seriously, COVID is worse now than it was at any other point in the
Right.
year, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean, it's
literally
just
worse
objectively
now.
worse. And then I mean, when it first started, you could just localize it to say, "Oh, it's New York's problem. New York is the one having a problem." You know, just
I'm not
look at
going to a crowded ass mall.
yeah, look how terrible New York is handling. I mean, look at the situation in Texas right now is fucking dire as shit. You know,
Yeah,
fucking freezer
everywhere
trucks,
like that.
your
Like I said,
and
New
then
York just shut down public schools again.
right, and just to let's go to that humanist report video, just because we're talking about this stuff.
Okay.
It's pretty mind bending to think about with how far along they're. I mean, I mean, these Trump people, especially, are going. But let's go. Let's see. Where is this thing? Right.
Yeah, I was fighting with my mom
So the
earlier.
CDC recommends
Oh.
that if your
No, Mike doesn't
positivity
deserve
rate
that.
is above 5%, that means you shouldn't be reopening your state's economy. Anything above 5% means that's too high. Once you get below 5% in terms of positivity rate, you can start to reopen the economy gradually if you want to do it safely. However, the positivity rate in South Dakota is 58%. 58%,
Holy shit.
nearly 60%, meaning the majority of people who take a COVID-19 test positive. And this is a small state. So it is very, very serious in this state. But their state's Republican governor has deliberately not taken any action, is pretending as if COVID-19 isn't a thing because she's a Republican and she thinks that this makes her a better politician because she's giving people in her state liberty, and because she's not doing anything, the
Pause
people
for a
in her
sec.
state are happy.
Yeah,
This is
hold on.
according to her. It's just
Like we've been saying all along, the good politician, the good businessman thing to do was do what we said
Right.
in the springtime, nip it in the butt. If we had just done that, everybody had stayed home and worn a mask for like 2 months, we would be free and clear,
Yeah, no, if I keep thinking about a scenario that if Trump would have just jumped on it and like used it to brand his election, and just even if he sent out 5 million MAGA masks to everybody, right?
He would be winning right now.
Yeah,
I mean, he would have won, I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably would have won. Can you imagine? Like, I think people would have, like, people with enough common sense to know how serious this shit would have worn the fucking masks if that's all they had.
Yeah.
You know, and then
They just-
and everybody that's Team Trump would have jumped immediately on board and worn
And,
them
like,
all over the place just to wear them.
They did the right policies in the beginning too, like with the CARES Act, like
Yeah.
aside from all the the socializing the stock market, like that was terrible, right? They shouldn't have done that, but like
Yeah.
the actual stuff they did with the expanded unemployment and the $1,200 stimulus and the paycheck protection plan.
Yeah.
Like they had the right policies. They had it right there. But like everything, they fucking underfunded it. And they underfunded it for optics. Like they were scared that it was going to look too expensive. And then they were the whole like red state, blue state thing. They wanted to make that a talking point and ramp up the culture war shit. And like, because he was trying to win the election, right? So like the whole messaging made it adversarial from the beginning instead of doing a unified thing and just doing it like the competent businessman he pretended to be.
Yeah.
And they also didn't fund any of the state and local governments, right, who desperately needed it, because that's a huge part of the economy that's going to bite us in the ass. Without having the municipal workers, without having people working for the government, when you cut thousands and thousands of jobs from local government, that's a huge chunk of the economy. People don't have money to afford, who are on unemployment and are otherwise like not able to participate in the economy. Having those people working for the city is a nice baseline. Those good, well-paying union jobs, people who work for municipal governments. Without that, because that's what cities are cutting. Like in my city, it's what they're cutting. They have to cut thousands of jobs. In New York, they're trying to cut thousands of jobs from the local government. That's going to hurt. Like if they had done that, along with the paycheck protection plan, where you pay your worker, you keep paying your workers, and the government reimburses you, we would be done, and the economy would be thriving right now.
Right.
And fucking Trump would be on his way to his second term, right?
Yeah, but let's see from the chat. Interesting, shutting down schools and now businesses. I wonder how people will deal with having to go to work in NYC. And it seems like Trump didn't want to win. A second stimulus would have even helped his chances. Well, I mean, at the end, he was pushing to get the stimulus, and I think, look, with all this shit, I don't think it was all about grift that he's doing in court. I think he really did want to hang on to power. He would have preferred to win than not win, but he just didn't. He rather try to look alpha and say you don't need masks and all this shit. I mean, you think somebody?
Dumb.
I mean,
that
somebody
was so dumb.
Convinced him not to go ahead and send out the mask in January. I mean, I don't know.
I think that was him, because nobody would tell him that.
Right.
Nobody would tell him that looks alpha, because it doesn't. It looks dumb, and it really fucked up their chances.
Right.
And like, they still almost won because people are suffering so much, and the Democrats suck so bad. But like, he had just done that, handled that shit in the beginning. Yeah. He would be, like I said, he would be on his way, and he'd be gloating so hard.
He would have been. I defeated the virus, folks. But this time he actually would have been right.
Well, he like doubled down on like coming up with a vaccine, right? Like that's what he thought he would be able to do, because like he.
And then what happens? The vaccine comes out. All this vaccine news comes right after he loses, and then
it was never going to come out in time, though. He
no, of course
know?
not. This shit takes time. The thing. I mean, the fact that we have so much news coming out of it, less than a year out is encouraging, because I mean, from all accounts from the very beginning, they said the shit was going to take a year and a half. So
yeah.
All right, let's go back to Mike on here.
It's honestly puzzling that this is happening. Like, you'd think that a global pandemic would not be a partisan issue, but in 2020 America, of course it's a partisan issue, and it's one of the most divisive issues of our time, right? So there was a thread on Twitter by a nurse who is in South Dakota who's working on the front lines with COVID-19 cases and patients, and what she said here, it honestly was shocking. So she tweeted this out. I have a night off from the hospital. As I'm on my couch with my dog, I can't help but think of the COVID patients the last few days. The ones that stick out are those who still don't believe the virus is real. The ones who scream at you for a magic medicine and that Joe Biden is going to ruin the USA, all while gasping for breath on 100% Vapotherm. They tell you there must be another reason they are sick. They call you names and ask why you have to wear all that stuff because they don't have COVID, because it's not real. Yes, this really happens. And I can't stop thinking about it. These people really think this isn't going to happen to them, and then they stop yelling at you when they get intubated. It's like a fucking horror movie that never ends. There's no credits that roll. You just go back and do it all over again, which is what I will do for the next 3 nights. But tonight, it's me and Cliff and Oreo ice cream. And how ironic, I have on my home hoodie. The South Dakota I love seems far away right now. Now, when I read this shocked me. And what she said stood with me. Like it was on my mind for days after I read it, because this is just shocking. Like, you would think that the denial ends once you're personally affected with something like COVID-19, but they still deny it even when they get it, and they literally are dying from it. I mean, what do you even say? There's no words that capture how sad this is. And this is sad. Like, these are human beings that probably, you know, didn't believe this was a thing. They didn't take any precautions. They ended up getting it, and they still, you know, denied it as they're in the hospital dying from it. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, this is horrifying. Now, this thread went viral, and she went on to CNN, and she explained a little bit more about her experience, and this is unreal to me. Like, I wouldn't expect this to be a thing that happens, even with how delusional Trump supporters are and how cult-like they are. Like, again, you think that there is a point where, you know, you stop believing in all of these weird things when you can see it, when it affects you on a personal, concrete level. But according to her, that's not the case with all of them.
Nurse Doring, thank you so much for being here. When I read some of your tweets, my jaw dropped. You said that even now, that the hospital is being overrun with COVID patients. They come in, they're horribly ill, they're gasping for breath, and yet they don't believe they have COVID?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing to watch is that people are still looking for something else, and they want a magic answer, and they don't want to believe that COVID is real. And the reason I tweeted what I did is it wasn't one particular patient. It's just a culmination of so many people.
Oh.
And their last dying words are, this can't be happening. It's not real. And when they should be spending time FaceTiming their
I don't mean
families,
to laugh. It's horrible,
they're filled
but
with anger
Jesus.
and hatred. And it just made me really sad the other night. And I just can't believe that those are going to be their last thoughts and words.
Anger and hatred towards you?
You know, I think it's just a belief that it's not real, and nursing happens to be on the receiving end of that. And that's okay. We can take that. That's what you're there for. It's just in the bigger picture when you try to reason with people of, can I call your family, your kids, your wife, your friend, your brother?
Yeah, you're dying.
And
You're not going to make
no,
it.
because I'm going to be fine. And you're watching
Jesus
their
Christ.
oxygen levels, you know, maxed out on what we call vapotherm at 100%, and their oxygen level might be 75.
Oh.
It's not really that compatible with life, and we know where that's going to head. And it just makes you sad and mad and frustrated. And then you know that you're just going to come back and do it all over again. And so, yeah, that's kind of where that stemmed from.
How could it not make your own head explode? They're gasping for breath. Their oxygen levels are dropping. What do they think is wrong with them?
You know, I think people look for anything. People want it to be influenza. They want it to be pneumonia. They want it to be, I mean, we've even had people say, well, I think maybe it might be lung cancer. I mean, something so far-fetched. And the reality is, since day one, when COVID started in this area in March, you've kind of been able to say, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. Like, I hate to tell you that you have COVID, but that's what you have. You know, even after positive results come back, some people just don't believe it. Now, that's not everybody. We have a lot of patients who are very, very grateful for their care and very thankful for what you do. But unfortunately, that's not what I'm remembering right now. And as my nursing career, that's not what I want to be remembering for. I want to remember the saves and the happy situations. And what I was remembering chilling on the couch the other night with my dog was not that.
Of course not. I mean, of course not. And it's just so mind-blowing to think that they would rather have lung cancer. They'd rather a diagnosis of lung cancer than of coronavirus. And so, I mean, you've said that it just, I mean, if I quote you from morning television, effing horror movie that you live every day. And so what toll is this taking on you?
Yeah, hindsight, I didn't realize that this was going to go viral. Probably could have left the F-bomb out of there, but the reality is that's how you feel. And so it is like it's just a movie where the credits never roll. You just do it all over again. And it's hard and sad because every hospital, every nurse, every doctor in this state is seeing the same things.
Now, the part of that really,
All right,
really.
we'll come back. We'll leave it there. But I mean, what do you make about that kind of shit, bro? I mean, I'm just getting like this mental picture of, you know, whoever is there in a hospital, and they're dying, their life is slipping away, their oxygen is right there at 75, like she said. So it's supposed to be at least above 90. Even if it drops close to 90, it's bad. So obviously this is like they're pretty much their last moments, and they're still out there saying this isn't real. And they're trying to call their families and say, you know, do you want to just talk to your family before you die, basically? And they're all saying, no, I'm going to be fine. This isn't real. This isn't COVID. I don't care about it.
I don't know what to make of that. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I haven't met anybody who doesn't believe in COVID. Like, I know people who think it's, you know, I think like most people on the right seem to think that it was, you know, trumped up to hurt to hurt Trump's reelection.
Yeah.
Trumped up to hurt Trump. Like, they thought that it was, you know, the media was fear mongering about it because they wanted to make Trump look bad, and like none of the problems were as serious as they thought. And I think that's, you know, I think a lot of people internalize that and then, you know, didn't want to wear masks and
right.
You know, like you said, it was a culture war thing they turned it into, and you know, it was a bizarre culture war topic, but it's spread around the world too. I don't know if you noticed that, but like they have like anti-mask protesters now in Europe, and that's part of why they had their spike, right?
Right.
Was that, but like I never met anybody who's like denied it actually existed. So like, I don't know, you're sitting in a hospital bed. I don't know at that point why it matters if it's COVID or something else.
Yeah,
that's
or
got
lung
you all
cancer or
fucked up. Like,
flu or something. And they don't believe they're going to die from it. Like they're in that.
Blame China.
Yeah. You imagine going out like that. Just the last thing you do is blame China as they put the blanket over your face and shit. I'm like, oh, jeez.
It's like, the China stuff is just like, I don't get it. Cause it's like, what do you want from China? You know, like, what are you trying to change? Like, what about it would make your suffering any more or less real? I mean,
at that point,
to be able to blame China?
You're dying. At what point does any of that shit matter? You know, like, do they not get that they're dying? I don't. But let's go to the chat again. Let's see. It's dark. I'm interested in reading a deep dive analysis into what the psychology is behind these people will not change their minds even on death's door. The whole shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue logic. Millions think like this. Yeah,
I think it tend to be less educated people too. You know, not all of them, but like, you know, we know like Trump shared voters with, you know, New York Times just did a big deep dive into it, but like, you know, non-college educated voters tend to go to Trump, especially. You know, these are like in rural parts of the country. You know, it's a lot of like you know, the white working class. I was trying to think of a joke about the racist dog whistle. But that's who's going for Trump. So these are people who are already kind of like not that they're susceptible to that anti-science thinking, you know, like how to they don't necessarily trust the expertise of doctors or anybody like that, public health experts. So
let's see, my sister Francesca has COVID. How do people not live? Are they just weak? That's the thing with that COVID. It varies. It hits people so differently, just person to person, and even depending outside of what you actually have. So if you have lung issues going in and you get COVID, it really makes it difficult on you. But even without that, even absent those kinds of conditions, for some reason it just hits people in a
Well,
different way.
I mean, some of the research makes it look like the initial load of it that you got
Right.
affects the virus's ability to colonize your body. So like
Hmm.
if you got it because you had a little bit on your hand and then like that got in your mouth and then you got, you eventually came down with it, that would be easier to get rid of than if you were in a room with like, 5 dudes who had it and they were all coughing all over you.
Yeah.
So like the viral load, that's not something that's weird, right? We don't have a lot of diseases like that. We don't have a lot of
Where
illnesses.
it depends on how much of it you
Hmm.
get, it can affect you. But the other part of that too is you get weird side effects, like you get blood clots out of nowhere,
Hmm.
and then you have other shit that affects you. But the like the thing that stands out to me though, and people miss this, is a lot of the times it's not that it doesn't hit you, it's that your body, because you're in better shape or whatever else, you have a better immune system, your body just can take that beating a little better than somebody else's body. And like I had like I told you, like I told you before, Matt, like, remember my realtor had gotten it. Like he was more of a young dude. They put him on oxygen. They had him on a ventilator for a little bit, but he was able to bounce back from it. Whereas, you get somebody older, maybe that's not as young, maybe has some kind of condition, and has to go through that same thing, and they're not going to come back from that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that sounds right. Um, yeah.
here we go. See this one. If it was their fault, so they're going to get away with infecting the whole world. Hey, we infected the let them get away with it when it's okay.
Mm.
They don't deserve to be punished for killing a lot of people. I mean, do you think I mean, it's hard to say at that point, because the people don't really. I don't know if there's like culpability on people for not doing their part.
Yeah, but see, that's what you always say though, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to blame China, that's fine, right? But it still doesn't alleviate your need to take care of your own country, right?
Right.
Like China dealt with it, right? Like I don't know if you saw that thing I sent you earlier,
Yeah.
but it was like about what they do when they find the cases, right?
Right.
They found
there's a whole protocol in place that
they
locks down
found
their
two
shit.
cases, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
This was nuts. So they found 2 new cases, and they did, I think it was at 4 million or 10.9 million tests at 4,090 testing site,
Mhm.
and they found 10 other people who were infected. They traced it back to where the initial infection had come from,
Right.
and locked everybody down, and then they were done, right? That's it. Like, there are ways to deal with this. Like, competent countries dealt with this in ways like that, right? You
Mhm.
find out who's sick, and then you contact trace. You find everybody they came into contact with. You find the initial vector. You test all the people in the chain, and then you isolate the people who have it, right? Like,
Right.
this is not like we've known how to deal with pandemics for 100 years now, right? It's just all those factors we were talking about, the partisan nature of our country, and the way it's very difficult to get any kind of policies implemented. The way it's like hard to get any kind of like national laws in place, all of this stuff, and then nobody wanted to pay for it, I think is the main thing, right?
Mhm.
Like the federal government was trying to get all the states to pay for their own test and trace programs, and they couldn't do it, right? Because it's really expensive, and they were losing a huge chunk of income from not having the taxes from the economy's like economic activity. So these broke ass states with suffering with no federal aid were supposed to implement their own contact tracing program. And like very few places seem to have done it. Like you guys were doing it down there, but I don't know how effective it was. Like we were supposed to be doing it here, but I don't think there's any money for it. I don't think they kept doing it. So all these states have these kind of half-ass plans, and there's no coordination, and there's no. The other thing is like we have different rules in different parts of the country. There's different rules in different states, and you're supposed to quarantine when you travel to another state, but there's no enforcement for that, and there's no uniformity. So like it's just spreading, like continues to spread. And then like we were saying, you have this entire like half the country basically who basically doesn't believe in it or thinks it's something minor, it's just like the flu,
Yeah.
and they're not taking any precautions, just
Right.
sharing it and making each other sicker,
Yeah,
So,
so I
like-
mean the whole thing, and then like the other part that people bring up is like if it's artificial, if it's manufactured or some other kind of shit.
It doesn't matter.
I mean,
though.
it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at that point because it's less on where the origins came or where the virus origins lie, and it's more on what you're gonna do about it now that it's here. So you can't start a problem, and then the next thing is nobody does anything about the problem. And,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
So-
think we will eventually be able to probably study the genetics of the virus
and then
itself.
that'll be
and
more
probably
clear.
Be able to
But
tell where it came from.
but just to be clear, right now, anybody assuming anything about the origin of the virus doesn't know shit. They're just trying to jump to a conclusion.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's equally likely that it came from some Western group that was messing around.
I mean, what was that? What was that shit that that they the origin of AIDS for a while? That was like the propagated origin was that some dude fucked a monkey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how true that is. I never looked into the research of that. They just.
I mean, it does
they
have
try to,
a hair.
I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, what I ended up reading, what I did end up reading was that they would eat monkey meat, and there was some simian
bush
contaminant. Yeah, bush meat. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then they try to blame it on Haitian immigrants that came through from San Francisco. So
Yeah.
so all this stuff takes forever to kind of figure out usually. So you can't
Like we
assume
keep
anything
saying,
about
they're all going to
China.
try to blame somebody
Yeah,
else. But,
exactly.
and the other thing is, Trump always brags about the lockdown or how he wouldn't let he banned China or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't actually though. He
Yeah.
banned Chinese people, right? He wouldn't let people fly to America from China. But if you were from a different country, you could still
Right.
fly from China, right? It was just people who had a Chinese passport weren't allowed in.
Right.
And as we now know, most of the cases, our early cases in New York,
Came
came
from
from
Europe.
They were
Exactly.
Italian and French cases.
Italian and French cases came through from Europe, and that's why New York was hit. Everybody flew right into LaGuardia and
And then there was no testing or anything at the
JFK. They
airport.
all flew in through those airports, and then everything spread like wildfire. So yeah,
And then we've done nothing. We
Fuckload
still
of
don't have
good
any
that
kind
shit
of
good.
national strategy.
yeah,
We still don't have any uniformity. We still don't have testing people at the airport. We don't have any of that shit. It's we're still not really trying to contain it. It's really they're just
yeah. And I mean, look, and then
letting our
you
people
see
die.
you see the shit carrying on now to how the Republican supporters are facing the election outcome. I mean, look at this from Reuters. About half of all Republicans believe Donald Trump rightfully won the U.S. election, but that it was stolen from him by widespread voter fraud that favored Democratic President-elect Joe Biden. That's according to this opinion poll from Reuters.
Holy shit.
Look at this. It says 73% or 52% of Republicans said Trump rightfully won, while only 29% that Biden had rightfully won.
And these are the people that see Biden. This is why it's not going to work, even if he just tries to do some sort of national mask mandate, right? Those people aren't going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to wear a mask out of spite at this point, right?
No.
They're not going to wear a mask just because Joe Biden told them to wear a mask, right? They're not going to do anything he says. They're not going to take they're not going to listen to anything, and they're going to be distrustful of everything from this administration. It's a real shit show, man. I don't know, I feel like a lib saying it, but it's this is really, the norms and guardrails, man. The norms. What about the norms?
Well,
people
shit.
are not going to trust the government.
This is the numbers are baffling. 68% of Republicans said they were concerned that the election was rigged, while only 16% of Democrats and 1/3 of Independents were similarly worried. Right, but
I'm in that
I'd be curious.
16%.
I'd be
I mean,
curious
so
if
I'm
they asked the
Democrat.
Democrats again, in a different way. Are you concerned about Russian interference in the rigging the election?
95%.
Right.
But that's the same thing with the fake news though, right?
Right.
Because they did their whole disingenuous attack on Trump's victory last time, and they never accepted it, him as having like a legitimate victory. I mean, Hillary did. She conceded the next day, right? But like the Democratic base all, and Hillary did too. They all pretended like
look,
it was
this is
Russia. Russia did it, and he was illegitimate.
Well, this is the
And-
conspiracy. This is the numbers for Hillary. Like 2016, 52% of Democrats said Hillary Clinton's loss to Trump was legitimate and accurate, even as reports emerged from Russian attempts to influence the outcome. This year, only 26% of Republicans said they thought that Trump's loss was similarly
exactly
legitimate.
what happens. So when you give them
so, like,
something,
so I mean,
right,
there's a
you
little
normalize
bit of a
it.
difference. I mean, 52% compared to 26%. I mean,
52% said so. 48% said it was not legitimate.
Right.
Right. So
compared to 26% that I mean,
well, then it was
or compared to
75%, right? What did we say?
compared to
60%?
74%. Yeah. So it's 48% compared to 74% of Republicans that think it's legitimate. I mean, come on.
But then they spent 4 years Russiagating and
Yeah.
saying he never win, he didn't do it. Like they rigged the election, and like they were talking about a different kind of rigging, right?
Right.
Like, they were
and then
talking
a
about
different
Russia,
type of legitimacy.
Yeah, they were talking about Russia like influencing it by suppressing voters and like turning off the base and getting people to not come out. But like when you give them that opening and you have that discourse, and you introduce the topic, it allows them to say, take it to the next level. It's like when the Democrats and CNN and MSNBC are constantly like low key, like whitewashing the shitty things the Democrats do, the shitty stuff Obama did, when they're constantly doing fake news, right? When they're constantly misreporting stuff in order to make the Democrats look good, it
Right.
allows Trump and the Republicans to take that trend and say, oh, this thing, like this is fake news because it says something bad about me, right? Like the whole it was a perfect call. Like most of those people, they believe that everything that happened is above board, right? Like they believe him when he says it's fake news, but really it's just like they're reporting facts that aren't good for you. They're reporting facts that aren't flattering.
And then the shit that you're getting from Trump's legal team and Giuliani and all those motherfuckers. I mean, it still leads me back to the same question: is whether or not they really believe their own bullshit or not. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. Like I don't know. Like right now, look at this. Now Lindsey Graham is facing an ethics complaint over that shit with the Secretary of State in Georgia. Look at this. Ethics expert and Trump critics call for Senate investigation into Graham's probe into the presidential election.
Is it actually going to happen now? I doubt that anything. Biden's not going to do any of this shit, right? Biden's going to.
Yeah, that was the Secretary of State clip. Yeah, let me see if 3 top.
You want to watch that clip?
That was the one from the Secretary of State guy. Remember we saw that one, didn't we?
Oh, is that? Did we see him with Wolf Blitzer though? I think that looks like it's a new one. No.
Let's see.
No one needs to know about this operation.
But like,
Hello, Alex.
there's not going to be any accountability. There's not going to be. Biden is not going to investigate any of the Trump people. Like, if Trump does get in legal trouble, it's going to be because of that Southern District in New York, right?
Yeah, that's what. I think it's the same thing I think. But all right, let's go.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham on Friday. You came away with the impression that he essentially wanted you to look for ways to toss out mail-in ballots.
Wolf Blitzer's
what
so
exactly
dumb.
did he say to you?
Well, he asked if the ballots could be matched back to the voters, and then I got the sense it implied that then you could throw those out. And he really would look at the counties with the highest frequent error of signatures. So that's the impression.
I swear it looks like he was going to say black there.
We've got signature match in place. We have signature
Right?
match when you request the ballot, absentee ballot, and then we have signature match when it comes in.
Yeah, this is a clip we already saw.
Online
Yeah, I thought
absentee
it
ballot
was.
portal that has photo ID, and so we feel really confident.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing that Graham was asking about was trying to see if the Secretary of State can throw those votes out based on signatures mismatching and all that kind of bullshit reasoning.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that he's trying to tip things on behalf of Trump, I mean, is it an ethical violation? I mean, I'd probably say
Yes.
so. I'd say
Yes.
so, but will something get done about it?
No, it should be.
No.
It's 100% like, and I'm not, like I said, like I'm not into lip shit. You know, like I don't really
Yeah.
care about prosecuting Trump for any of the shit that that the
Oh,
libs want to go after him
don't
for.
tell me you
But
won't
like,
laugh if they send his ass to jail.
I mean, no, I would be stoked if it happened, but like I'm not going to, like get into it. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be something I'm interested in. But like this instance, I do kind of think that it would benefit the country to litigate this issue to, find some way to prove, or at least, prove a little bit that the shit wasn't rigged and that Republicans knew what they were doing and they did it anyway,
So this is what they're asking him. This is what the complaint is about. So, whether Graham suggested that Raffensperger disenfranchised Georgia voters by not counting votes lawfully cast for the office of the president. They also asked the panel to investigate whether Graham threatened anyone with a Senate investigation of the Georgia vote tally. The Senate panel reviews complaints from virtually any source according to its guidelines, but whether it would probe Graham is uncertain. The panel, what's up?
Keep going.
The panel, which is evenly split between 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, acts in secrecy and is often offers a little more than a slap on the wrist to admonish the senator's misconduct.
Oh, shocking.
Yeah, so Graham told CNN no, not at all when asked if he's concerned about facing an ethics investigation. I get accused of everything. I'm just going to keep being me.
Yeah.
I called up the Secretary of State to find out how you verify a signature and what database you use, because I think it's important if we're going to vote by mail to get it right. Yeah.
You like 100%. I believe that Secretary of State guy. There's no reason for him to lie. Like, why would he lie
and
about that?
He's a Republican too. He's no reason to go and put this shit on his own party. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Why would he throw Lindsey Graham under the bus? And like, it would make more sense to
Yeah, see, like, here we go. Kamala fist bumping Lindsey the same day that this news broke was enough for me to know nothing's going to come of this. I wonder how politicians are going to start to act knowing they can do whatever they want, even in the public eye. Yeah, I mean, you see
they're
that?
already acting that way, aren't
they
they?
are. I mean, they are already acting that way. So you want to know the answer to that question? There's the way they act. They go and fist bump each other in broad daylight.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck. Like,
and then meanwhile act like these other people are fucking evil at the end of the day. Like, you get these weird moments of political theater where they're talking about virtue and shit and common sense. Like, everybody thinks their ideas are common sense.
Yeah, it's like they're totally fine with the all this blatant corruption across the aisle.
Yeah.
But then like Ilhan Omar can't say tropes. Like she can't talk about AIPAC, right?
Yeah, she gets shit for saying all about the Benjamins.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, really? Was that a shot at Benjamin Yahoo? Or Yahoo, my bad. But yeah, I mean, really? That's where they go. That's where they go with it.
And you ain't in it, and like
that's what
I
they
don't
go
know,
with.
like,
That's what they go with. Like,
it's dark.
That
man.
that was obviously a play on the trope that Jews like money. I mean, really?
No, like it was clear what that was.
Yeah,
and, like,
but that's what they turned it into.
Because we talk about foreign interference. If there's any country that's interfering, it's AIPAC, the Hasbro lobby, right? They're bipartisan across the aisle. It's the only country where you have to sign a loyalty oath to a foreign country in order to Texas school teachers had to sign an anti-BDS pledge.
Yeah,
right?
look, exactly. The big club thing was never more clear than it is now when you're looking at that kind of shit.
Well, I think, isn't Kamala on the Judiciary Committee too?
Yeah.
Like, I think Lindsey Graham, I think he is, he's probably a normal guy, like in private, right? Like, I think him
what do you
more
mean?
than the others is playing a role.
Not to judge or anything, but wasn't there was like some kind of weird sex scandal where he cross-dresses like J. Edgar Hoover?
Oh, I didn't hear that part, but I heard that he likes men.
No. Apparently, like he does like full garb and makeup and has like a whole alias, like Lady Featherby or something.
Oh, Lady G.
Was that it? I don't remember.
Yeah, Lady G was the nickname.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, that's not
G.
confirmed. I mean, it's plausible. Like,
Would it shock
It's weird
you?
that he's a bachelor, right? There's not that many bachelors in the Senate like
Yeah, I
that,
mean
you know.
he's a bachelor, he's older
But like
bachelor
I
by
said,
now.
more than anyone else, he's doing theater, right? Like he's
Hmm.
playing a role. Like he's like in character. That's why he was able to like flip flop between like being anti-Trump and pro-Trump, and he's just always on stage. He's such a theater kid, and I feel like he's probably pretty cool to hang out with, like when you're not doing politics, right? He seems like he's probably like funny and quick-witted and all that. So him and Kamala probably get along nicely.
Yeah, more than likely. Let's see if I was gonna go to. Um, this is what I want to show about the. So Giuliani's heading up the team, right? But look who he's
Hmm.
getting his advice from, bro. According to people familiar with their conversations,
Yes.
Giuliani is conferring regularly with Stephen Bannon, the controversial former White House advisor, who earlier this month called for Anthony S. Fauci, to the coronavirus task force member, to be beheaded.
Hmm.
So here goes another piece of work. We continue to push forward, said Boris Epstein, a Trump ally and strategic advisor to the campaign, who appeared with Giuliani at a federal court hearing in Tuesday in Pennsylvania, where the president's lawyer faced skeptical questioning from the judge. The push is to determine what truly happened in this election, and the point is to get to the bottom of how many people voted legally for President Trump and how many for Joe Biden.
77%.
Yeah, Trump supporters believe Biden's win was due to fraud.
Yeah. And I don't think anything's going to shake that either. I mean,
But
that
there
would
was,
be nice to have some kind of litigation about it to try to prove it to some people, but they're never going to believe it.
yeah,
Like, there's nothing they can do.
yeah. Look at this. Trump's current chief of staff, Mark Meadows, told reporters on Capitol Hill that Wednesday that he personally has evidence of ineligible voters casting ballots.
Well, where is it? Like, what kind of strategy? It's just like logically, there's so
Right.
many problems with it. Like, not to mention all the stuff about like how they didn't win the Senate too. If they were going to rig the election, why wouldn't they also rig it so they actually won the Senate and
Right. I
then
mean,
move
what did they
seats in the
rig the
House?
Senate to be
Like,
lost to?
excusing all that, but like the um, there's no strategic use to not come out with your most damning evidence right away. And
Mm-hmm.
like it's clear that they were like grasping at stuff because you saw how they started bringing in like conspiratorial thoughts like
Yeah.
from like fans, right? Like stuff would be on 4chan about like that computer program and how it was like a foreign intelligence operation, and like that was what they how they were able to switch the votes. And like you sound increasingly unhinged the longer
Right.
we've gone off, and they haven't had any proof, and every single
Yeah.
legal case has been
Well,
dismissed.
look
Like
what it says
that
here.
costs money to do that,
Yeah, then that's what they did. They just wired in $3 million to get that recount in Wisconsin. And look
I
what
thought
this
it was
is.
8 million.
No. Let me
Yeah,
go
they
back.
paid for it though.
Yeah, I'll go back to the top. They wired 3 million of the 8, I think is what it is. So look at this. They're just desperate. They probably know better than the rest of us that their allegations are unfounded, and they're seeking a delay for some reason that is tactical but not legal.
Because it's fundraising.
Yeah.
Um,
So look at, here we go at the 3 million mark. Where is this thing? There we go. On Wednesday, Trump's campaign wired $3 million to election officials in Wisconsin to start a recount in the state's two largest counties. His personal team, Rudolph Giuliani, has taken over the president's legal team and asked the federal judge to consider ordering the Republican-controlled legislature in Pennsylvania to select the state's electors. Yeah. Yeah, there was another line here.
Hold on, I gotta pee. Do you want to put that
Yeah, I'll put up
play
that.
one of those videos?
Which one?
The one about the Pentagon on the Politico thing?
All right, yeah, hold on. We'll come right back with that. All right, we're back, everybody.
Which one did you play?
No, I couldn't figure out which video you wanted me, but just I just wanted to go to one more of these quotes with Giuliani and Bannon. Giuliani is turning this into a clown car, and Bannon never had a plan. They think they're being aggressive, but it's disorganized, said longtime strategist Scott Reed. Bannon thinks he's the disruptor in chief.
I think he would like. I think Bannon did have a plan, though. I think Bannon knows what he's doing. Like, I think he would have. Trump would have won if he had listened to Bannon. I feel like, right? Like,
Well, I mean, he won last time because he listened to Bannon and did all that.
exactly. But I think
populist
that
stuff.
he has been too. He's been in the swamp too much, right? Like, he's so shrouded with like. He's so inundated with the establishment, like right wing point of view, like the, all those big corporatist, like free market type guys, and I feel like they're the cool guys, right? Like they're the ones that like he wants to impress, right? Like they're the elites, right? Like the Robert Kraft and the people like that, right? Like that's who Trump wants to be friends with, right? Like he's. If we listen to some of the accounts, it's like he's always wanted to impress that crowd, like the Clintons, right? Like the Democrats, like that's the people he wanted to like impress. That's part of the reason why he ran, right?
Yeah.
He like Bannon was, Bannon's like an oddball, like an outcast. He's not part of the, the club, right? Like he's sort of like a, like a Bernie type, right? Like that shit Hillary said about how nobody likes him. Like these people. They actually think like that. Like that's the way they do their politics based on like in crowd, out crowd shit, right? Like they're constantly trying to like be in the cool group, and the cool group is like the, the billionaires and the shameless corporatists.
That speech that came out, or that thing that Joe Biden said when he was first elected into the Congress, where he said the first thing he tried to do is look for ways to prostitute himself to lobbyists.
Who said that?
Biden.
That's what he did, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. The first thing I did was look for somebody to sell myself out to. Like,
yeah.
All right,
and
well,
like,
that's nice. Well,
Bannon has been, like, he has been traveling around the world, like, trying to, like, spread the gospel of right-wing populism, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's been meeting with all these foreign leaders, and he's got that Chinese billionaires.
That shit worked.
That's what I'm saying. That's how Trump won. He won. So, and like he almost won this time too, even though he was doing the exact opposite.
Right.
Because I think a significant number of the the working class voters that he brought out, I think a significant number of them still thought that he was going to come good on his promises.
Yeah.
And I think another chunk of them were people who knew the Democrats weren't going to do shit, and they were just trying to get back to work, right? Like,
let's see. Let's go to this article I got linked to in the chat from Business Insider. So Lindsey Graham says women have a place in America and can go anywhere if they're against abortion. You remember that?
What? That's what he said about conservative, right? You can do anything if you're conservative.
Yeah, he said the same thing, right? It's
like it's no problem being black in my state if you're conservative.
Yeah, women are welcome anywhere in the country if they're against abortion. I want every young woman
live in any part so long as they're not liberal.
Yeah. Like, I want every young woman to know that there's a place for you in America if you are pro-life, if you embrace your religion and you follow traditional family structure. That, man, it would, bro, that shit would blow up so hard if it came out how gay he is. I mean, it's one thing, like, okay, it's not so bad about him being gay, like, that in itself isn't a bad thing, but the way he goes and talks about, like, okay, if you believe in your religion and your traditional family structure in this way, then you're so much of a better American. Like, yeah.
I mean, it happens a lot with this hardcore, like, anti-gay politicians. They comes out that they're, like Dennis Hassert and all, like, that's a thing, right? Like, their projection, right? They're overcorrecting.
It's what we talked about with Jesse Lee Peterson too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely a thing on the right.
Let's see. Do you want to go to Jimmy Dore?
Sick country we live in. Well, I don't know. Do you want to do that article first, the Politico article?
Politico. Let's see. You send
I don't know. What does anybody think? I mean, I think Trump actually wants to pull the troops out, right? Like, I don't think it's because, I mean, I think it's for personal and petty reasons. I think he wants to own the libs, right? Like, he wants to own all the people who were pushing for them to stay, right? Like, he wants to screw over the
okay, where'd you send me the political article?
Oh, I didn't send it to you?
Didn't look like it.
I think he wants to this isn't the one. Yeah, I think he wants to own the libs. I think he wants to own some people at the Pentagon. I think he doesn't necessarily get along with the weapons people, because I think those guys kind of run the show, right? Like, that's the most important industry in the country, and it has been for a long time, right?
Right.
Like, weapons of war. Like, that's what, like, that's America's biggest.
There you go. I bet he's doing someone a favor by pulling them out. I feel like it's too tactical for him to be doing on his own.
And
I mean, it's one of the things that he ran on.
Well, yeah, there's that. So I think he's also trying to make himself look good, like set himself up with the base. Like, see, look, I got us out of the war, right? Like I said, I was going to do that, and I did it. And he thinks he can get that done. And I think it's also he wants to privatize what effort there is there, right?
Yeah.
I think he wants to set the stage for, what's it called, Academic, for Eric Prince's new company, the guy from Blackwater, Betsy DeVos's brother-in-law or brother. Like, I think that's what he's trying to accomplish, all those goals. Plus, the more they push back, I feel like the more he is committed to doing it, because I think, like the lib take is that he wants to fuck up Joe Biden's transition. He wants to make it harder so that Biden has to like send troops back and whatever. Like, he has chaos at the Pentagon. I think he wants to do that maybe a little bit, but I think it's more so about that other stuff, like proving that he did with the base. I think that's a video at top, right?
Yeah, it seems like it. Let me see what this is.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Miller, Acting Secretary.
I think he thinks it's like an easy promise
to update you on President Trump's plan to bring the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq to a successful and responsible conclusion.
Oh, dude.
And to bring our brave service members home. From Kabul to Kandahar and from Mosul to Fallujah, hundreds of thousands of America's finest sons and daughters who selflessly answered the call to serve in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard have brought us to this point. By January 15th, 2021, our forces, their size in Afghanistan, will be 2,500 troops. Our force size in Iraq will also be 2,500 by that same date.
Still 5,000 troops.
This is consistent with our established plans and strategic objectives, supported by the American people, and does not equate to a change in U.S. policy or objectives. Moreover, this decision by the President is based on continuous engagement with his National Security Cabinet over the past several months. If the forces of terror, instability, division, and hate begin a deliberate campaign to disrupt our efforts, we stand ready to apply the capabilities required to thwart them.
Yeah.
Look at this shit, though. Minutes after the announcement, the AP reported that 2 Katyusha rockets landed inside Baghdad's fortified green zone near the embassy, the largest embassy in the world, signaling an end to an informal truce announced by an Iran-backed militia in October. Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't the CIA or the CIA.
Did you see that report that Trump tried to go ahead and bomb Iran immediately after he lost the election?
Oh, I didn't see that. But
yeah, there was a
I
report
wouldn't be
about that.
surprised. I mean,
Like, I think
I'm
I could
not
probably
sure how
find
this
it.
ties into Iran. Like I said, Trump's worldview
Well, because
is
I mean,
Fox News
the
grandpa,
overall, I mean, the
right? He
overall
watches shit
thing.
on Fox News and gets
Yeah.
pissed off about it. So he wants to own Iran. Like he wants to hit them, right?
Yeah.
Because he sees it as like something that the U.S. presidents have failed to do. Like they didn't have the balls to strike back in a significant way. And I think that's what he was doing with Soleimani. Like he was really trying to provoke them into giving him an excuse to go to war, and they didn't give it to him. And I think he still almost went anyway, because he wants to like check that off the list. Like he thinks that like, oh, like Iran is a huge threat, and they're gonna fuck up all of our interests if we don't destroy them. And I think he thinks that like everybody else was just like too scared to do it, right? So yeah, I think he wants to mess around with Iran, and I think he also thinks that like there's no like glory or honor left to be had in Iraq or Afghanistan. So he wants to start a new war and get get the recognition for
Look
it.
at this quote from Ben Sass. He called the withdrawal a weak retreat, does not ground in reality, and will make the world a more dangerous place.
Yeah.
I mean, how?
It's so bizarre that it's not bizarre. Like we know exactly why they're doing it, right? Like they're doing it to the racket, right? Like they need the permanent war to stay on. It's a bipartisan consensus. They spend trillions of dollars there, and we talked about it last night. It's basically all just flushed down the toilet, right? Like it's just going straight to contractors, and there's no value being provided for it. It's a huge grift, and a lot of those people have money going to their districts, and the weapons manufacturers are very good at playing the game like that. Like they have facilities all around the country in important districts, and I think, like I said, it's a bipartisan consensus that war is good for empire, and I think they think that there's no downside to it because they don't care. Like they want to spend the money, and they have an excuse to spend the money, and it's good for American capital, right? Like that's, like I said, that's our number one industry, and this is $1 trillion every year going right into the military to mostly go to weapons manufacturers. It's not paying soldiers salaries,
right?
And so I don't think that's going to land with too many American people, though, right? Like if we draw down, it'll be so dangerous for our troops. Think about the poor troops
been
will be
over
in
there
so much
for
danger.
I mean, we've had troops over there for 20 years.
Yeah, nobody's going to believe that.
But yeah, let me go that Iran article, because I mean the whole thing is that he's trying to put up a front like if he was really anti-war, but I mean he's not, and then this troop withdrawal, I mean it suggests
he's anti those wars.
Yeah,
right? Like because those, like I said,
those
there's
were
no
Obama's
glory
war.
left. Yeah, and those wars are done, right? Like they're not. Like he can't win those wars. He can't do anything. He can't accomplish anything in Iraq or Afghanistan that'll give him credit, right? He can only do things that'll harm him. And I don't think he cares about the money, obviously, right? That's what I say. Is like I don't want to do endless war because we can't afford it. Where we can afford it, right? But in their worldview, we can't afford it. It's $1 trillion a year that would be better spent at home. Like the stat that always drives me nuts is we could afford free college for everybody on just the increase in the military budget from last year to this year. Just the $80 billion extra that went into the military this year would have been enough to send everybody to college for free. Like, these are policy decisions. It's a policy decision to leave the country drowning in debt while the weapons manufacturers get trillions of dollars to go fuck shit up in these foreign countries. And it's a shitty place to be, and it's shameful. It's downright shameful that we would do that with so much suffering at home. And there's still, this whole time, after all these crises going on, and they're still that committed to that racket. Yeah. So there's no reason that any of those people care about any Afghanistan. Did you see Mitch McConnell was talking about violence against Afghanistan, Afghani women and stuff? Trying to sound woke about it. Dan Crenshaw was too.
Yeah.
Their messaging is id poll shit about the Afghani women. It's just pathetic, man. Like I said, like that stuff's gonna jump the shark if
Yeah.
we keep up like that, because there's nobody buys that stuff now, and they're getting more ridiculous about it, using like identity politics to justify, like imperialism. It's disgusting.
Let me go back to that Iran article. Then you see Iran warns of crushing response if Trump targets nuclear site. So it was reported that Trump last weekend looked at options for striking Iran's main nuclear site, but was dissuaded from taking action after his advisors warned it might lead to a larger conflict in the Middle East. So I mean, they got close to this after they killed the Iranian general. What was his name?
Soleimani.
Yeah,
Qasem Soleimani.
Yeah, after he ordered that drone strike on this dude, and
Yeah.
I was sure the next day because Iran went ahead and attacked one of the bases there, and I was sure that was about to pop off something, and he actually took a tempered response after that strike, but then immediately you see that. I mean, he's looking again at military options over there, and I mean, I wouldn't have put it past them to doing something extreme like that. I mean, just because he's on the way out the door and he doesn't really give a fuck anymore.
Did you see this? The at least one Democrat, however, said they agreed with the president's move. Representative Adam Smith from Washington,
yeah, I saw that
chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, said he spoke with Miller and believes reducing the U.S. presence in Afghanistan to 2,500 troops is the right policy decision. While the history of conflict in the region is complex and predates our direct involvement, after nearly 20 years of armed conflict, Americans and Afghans alike are ready for the violence to end. I just don't see how you could disagree with that, and I think you're obviously full of shit if you have a different take than that. I don't know what you're accomplishing there, and you're still going to have 2,500 troops there, and it's still going to be supplemented by plenty of mercenaries and the most high-tech weapons.
Yeah, and
there's we have the drone war still too.
Right. I mean, not like we're not going to stop. We're going to stop sending drones over there too. So
exactly, like we can take out anybody at the drop of a hat. Like we have such precision satellite targeting systems that it's not a mistake. Like we don't kill civilians by accident, right? Yeah, this is
so you know what, why don't we go to that let's go talk about the Zuckerberg for a little bit. Yeah, put that up on the title.
Yeah. And these guys are really covering themselves in shit, the ones who are pushing back. Like if this becomes an issue, like as he starts doing this, right? Like when they start doing it, and you're going to have more of these talking heads, these like Senator Duckhead on TV talking about pulling their hair out and saying how dangerous it's going to be. They're going to look really pathetic, and they're going to look really dishonest, right? Like, I just wish they're both so brainwashed. Like the Democrats and the Republicans are all so confused by everything. But I think some of that stuff gets through, right? Like it's very rarely that you see partisans. I mean, the Republicans will sometimes criticize their own for not being, gung ho enough. But the Democrats, like the liberals, never criticize the Democrats, right? Ever, unless it's like the Squad, or like someone like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What was the thing that you sent about the Senate, the Section 203, the tech guys?
230.
230. That's right. 230.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just reading the rest of this. Yeah, I'm just worried about what the intelligence community is going to do in order to make sure this war stays in place. Because this whole time, it seemed like I think Trump did want to pull out, not because he's anti-war, but because of the other reasons we already discussed. And there was always something, like it was the bounties, right? Like they made that into some reason, like, oh, why is he running from the Russians? Like, why does Trump not want to face the Russian threat? Like, why does he not want to stand up to them? He's going to pull the troops out instead of dealing with these. They're trying to do bounties on the Taliban, and the Russians are working together and all. Like, there was always something. Like, then it was Syria. There was always something going on that was like another way to get us further embedded in these internal affairs. So like I would not be surprised, like we said, there was that missile strike right after they announced it, like minutes after the announcement, there was rockets landed inside the green zone. That seems suspicious to me, and I would not be surprised if there was more attacks, more kind of like false flags to
even
make
in like
sure
the
we
next
stay
couple
there.
of months you're talking about.
Yeah, between now and January, I think I would not be surprised if there was a massive attack that was on the news, or some other development there that, you know, was designed to get us stuck in. And I mean, I like that he's been able to resist the pressure, this bipartisan pressure, you know, like he's put his new DOD head in. And I don't know much about that guy, Miller, the guy he put in. But I know Mark Esper was a fucking Raytheon lobbyist, so that's not good, right? Like, hopefully this guy gives, you know, believes in this stuff, is honest, you know. Just looking at the stuff about the transition. Yeah, Republicans denounced Trump's latest plan, request partial recount in Wisconsin, maybe because he didn't want to pay all $8 million, so he just.
I mean, why would he send the 3 if he wasn't
option?
gonna? I mean, I guess.
Well, because I think it cost $8 for the full recount, and the fact that he only sent 3 makes me think that he got some sort of deal, just to like appease. Yeah, see, a recount in the entire state would cost 7.9,
and they gave 3 of it. I mean, is it probably maybe just for those 2 counties?
Yeah, 2 heavily Democratic counties in Wisconsin that Joe Biden carried by 20,000 votes statewide. Since the margin is greater than 1/4 of a point, he has to foot the bill himself. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I mean, this is just for show, right?
Yeah.
In 2016, a statewide recount changed the totals by just 131 votes. Allies of the president, backed by a group called True the Vote, sued to invalidate the results, claiming improprieties, and then they filed to voluntarily dismiss their lawsuit. That's funny. The worst irregularities in American history. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this is just to appease the base. Let's see what this says. Mulvaney slams Giuliani's role in the Trump campaign team. That's the other thing. Giuliani's like terribly incompetent.
Well,
right?
The only reason they put him in charge of the whole legal thing too is he's probably the only one that would take it.
Yeah.
So
they should have dosed him to Bannon. I think this is all about setting him up for, 2024 at all.
What, to go ahead and do it again?
Yeah, I think that's what he's done. I think since he lost, his entire strategy has been about how do I fuck up Joe Biden's presidency? How do I invalidate and delegitimize the government's activities and appease the base and get myself in a strong position for 4 years?
All right.
Yeah, Giuliani's not even like an election lawyer. They don't have.
Well, I mean,
they don't even have a real lawyer.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he's a lawyer, but I mean, that's not what he's been known for. He was a prosecutor.
Yeah, not this kind of shit, for sure.
So.
No, it was just like you would think the base.
Well, I mean, look at the shit that he had put up before what Trump did. Wow, Michigan just refused to certify the election results. Having courage is a beautiful thing. The U.S. stands proud. And then, just a little while later, Michigan's largest county certifies election results, reversing earlier Republican attempt to block.
Well, did you see that though? They were trying to. The Republicans on the committee refused to validate, Wayne County.
Yeah.
and I think that they had said that they had signed off on like a white town, Livonia, that's in Wayne County, but they were trying to invalidate Detroit City, which is 90% black or 80% black or something.
And presumably went heavily for Biden.
Yeah, but there was a guy, one of the committee members, they recorded him going, and he went on this long rant about how you're going to be remembered with Bull Connor and all. Actually, that might be worth watching if you want to pull that out.
I wanted to talk about that internet thing, the Capitol Hill shit.
All right, we'll get to do it. Just a second. One more thing about this.
All right.
Let me find it. Because this is a pretty good clip. He owns this guy pretty hard. Heck is it? Here we go. All right.
You send it to me?
Majority Report did a video on it, and TYT did. Which one do you want?
Let's go to Majority Report.
Okay.
Wayne County Board of Canvassers, I guess. Basically, the County Board of Elections, if you will. And two of them, William Hartman and Monica Palmer, decided that they were going to vote against certifying the vote coming out of Wayne County. Wayne County has houses Detroit, if you will, or Detroit sits in Wayne County.
Yes, and Trump supporters and Trump lackeys were targeting it for no specific reason.
No specific reason at all. For instance, like here's Wayne Hartman's Facebook post from 2010, found by Quentin Wilbur, or Del Quentin Wilbur. Just a classic break stuff, steal things. Here's Barack Obama, pirate, smoking a cigarette. Oh, here he is, Obama, Muslims, and NASA.
What?
I'm only interested in learning how to fly it, not land it. That, incidentally, is what the 9/11 attackers told their flight instructors down at the flight school that they were at in Florida. And here it is, Michigan, Detroit. Kwame made my license plate. That was the former mayor of Detroit. So these, those are. I don't know. I don't know what that tells you about William Harvey. He's just a guy who likes to have fun on Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, he's really interested in D- memes that remove Barack Obama's teeth for no discernible reason. And don't forget, he used to smoke cigarettes, which means can't trust him.
He's a hood. He's a hood.
He's in the hood.
And so the Hartman and Monica Palmer decided that they thought there was something suspicious about what happened in Detroit. Now, by all other metrics, there were plenty of other places, and they said the rest of the county is all fine.
But this, just quickly, this is clearly signaling from what Trump has now said publicly, where he singled out Detroit, he singled out Philadelphia, he singled out other cities that are predominantly black. Very little to say about Pittsburgh or a city like that, which is an urban center that I guess kind of colloquially has the perception of being whiter. Nothing there. But so they're taking basically marching orders from Trump's talking points about Detroit.
And so they refused to certify. We saw the video where Kayleigh McEnany and Sean Hannity celebrated. They thought this is going to win Michigan for them. And this guy, Ned Stabler, who was on the Wayne County Board of Canvassers, gets on the Zoom call and basically says, okay, this is what is called, and when he does this, he thinks he's lost. He thinks that the ship has sailed. they refuse to certify. It goes up to the state. State can't certify, and who knows what's going to happen with the electors from the state and this and that. And this guy says basically on this Zoom call, "You're going to do this. I'm going to make you pay a price." This dynamic. I want you to think about this dynamic, because this is what Democrats should have been doing. Every time they lose a battle, you exact a cost. I don't think Ned Stabler thought he was going to win this fight. I think he was just basically saying, like, you're going to pay for this win that you're going to get. You're going to take essentially blood money, as it were, metaphorically speaking. People are going to know it's blood money. Play this clip on the Zoom. It's really unbelievable.
We also know that the Secretary of State and the Attorney General have already tweeted out that your legal arguments are rubbish and you're going to lose when it comes to court. So we're not worried about that at all. I'm also not worried about any of your, things are bad so we can't certify arguments, because that's just ridiculous. You certified in August when they were worse. Less than 50% of the ballots were recountable. Now over 72% are. 58% of them were even balanced when it was less than 30% last time. So it's doubled. It's gotten way better because the Secretary of State actually jumped in and did her job, unlike you. But I know it's not going to change your opinion. You talked about not certifying Detroit, even though you acknowledged that Livonia, a city, by the way, I know you know is 95% white, had bigger variances than Detroit, which is 80% black. We understand, and you've now added your name. So I'm not going to try to change your mind. I just want to let you know that the Trump stink, the stain of racism that you, William Hartman, and Monica Palmer have just covered yourself in, is going to follow you throughout history. Your grandchildren are going to think of you like Bull Connor or George Wallace. Monica Palmer and William Hartman will forever be known in southeastern Michigan as two racists who did something so unprecedented that they disenfranchised hundreds of thousands of black voters in the city of Detroit because they were ordered to. Probably, I know, Monica, you think Q told you to do it or some other crazy like that.
Shit.
But just know, when you try to sleep tonight, that millions of people around the world now on Twitter know the name Monica Palmer and William Hartman as two people completely racist and without an understanding of what integrity means or a shred of human decency. The law isn't on your side. History won't be on your side. Your conscience will not be on your side. And Lord knows, when you go to meet your maker, your soul is going to be very, very warm.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
What did he say? Very, very warm?
Very, very warm. Let me see. Let's back it up. Let's see. Let's put up on replay.
Very warm.
Warm.
What does that mean?
Well, is that like a reference to Hal? Like Hal's hot?
I guess.
Yeah, like he's warm.
Maybe you meant to say the soles of your feet or something. I don't know.
Soles, like, I guess, are gonna be warmer. Like your soul's gonna be burning. I don't know, but
That's the
whatever he
problem,
would like. It was a pretty good own up to.
It was a pretty good own.
Yeah.
Did you see? I mean, here's the problem though. Is like half of the country, or 70-something million people or whatever, they voted for them, and his numbers went up in the black and brown community.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you actually you sent me some stuff with that, right? Let me see.
People don't think he's racist, right? Like, or he gets the claim that, look, half the country doesn't think I'm racist.
Yeah, Biden's
it's just you libs.
Where is it? Biden won a healthy share of Hispanic voters, or Trump won a healthy share of Hispanic voters compared with 2016. And may also have benefited from reduced enthusiasm for Biden in some Democratic counties with large black populations.
Yeah, because he was fucking palling around with Rick Snyder.
Yeah.
Instead of, palling around with Nina Turner.
Yeah, I mean, that would have gone a long way to go ahead and reach out to voters, but that's not what they were going after. So let me pull this one
Alley
up.
Valley did a
see whether
really
or not
good.
Voters had college degrees was the most significant predictor of additional turnout. Areas with concentrations of white voters without a college degree moved towards Trump. White areas with better educated populations moved decisively away. What do you owe that to, though? The whole education gap, I guess, with the between Biden and Trump.
It's the I'm just looking for this Ellie Valley cartoon. It's the norms, right? Like the college educated people, they learn how to not be racist, or to at least hide their racism better in college, right? Like they learn how to do the dog whistles, and they learn
Right.
how to all that other in-group signaling shit, right? They get the sort of the indoctrination, right? Like it's funny, like they do have a point, all the people who talk about like cultural Marxists, right? Like they indoctrinate you in college and they turn you into shit libs, and it's like, I mean, there's some truth to that, right? Like you just learn how to not, it's like you go to school, you probably like some people like meet like their first like people of color, right? Like they grow up and don't know anything like that, and like I think there's still a lot of these people, like these psychos you see, like there's probably like no black and brown people in their towns, right? Like I think a lot of it's like that, and they believe the stupid shit, like the crazy stuff, right? Like,
Well,
and I think
that's part of it.
if you don't go to college, you don't leave your town, right? You don't leave your little community, you don't ever, that doesn't ever change,
Yeah.
Here it is.
What do you have over there?
It's
Ellie Valley. We go 2020 for conservative punditry. Almost half the country voted for me. That proves I'm not racist. Wow.
Yeah. Like there's that phenomenon. So like these people, half the country doesn't like you.
Then you get the
talk
argument
about cancel culture, but like this isn't going to go on anybody's resume. Like you being accused of like trying to disenfranchise Detroit, like that's not, that's not something that's going to like hold you back, unless people are, very few people are going to remember this guy's name despite that threat. And I think that's kind of what AOC was saying too, right? Is like these people are going to go and like blend back into the.
You're talking about when she said to make a list of these people,
like,
and then they turned that into a gulag list.
Exactly, but like I'm saying, like these people, like we should do that because they're pretty like. I was never the type to say like, oh, Trump's racist. That was, he's doing tropes like the up until like this year. I feel like until he went like over the top, like after the protest, right? After that, I was like, fuck, man, nobody, he's not going to get any black votes. No one's going to vote for him, right? I thought that he was just because he was doing, that was more than tropes, right? Like he was pretty like out there with it, right? Like, and that didn't really change anything. And then he still kind of has, he has that getaway. So like half of the country can basically, there's no like proof that they're racist. You know what I'm saying? Like, or like, obviously not half the country, but like, at least the staff, right? They know what they're doing. Like they have to have like internal discussions about how to handle like, Trump's racism.
All right. What do you want to go to next?
We should prank call that Michigan guy.
Oh, dude. Well, let's talk about.
It's not like I'm saying like I'm not saying like they should have, they shouldn't be able to work again. I'm not saying anything like that, but like.
Well, I mean, I think off on its face, I don't know if a lot of the people in the Trump administration are going to have as easy a time finding another job as maybe some people in the past did.
But like I said,
but that goes right into that rehabilitation thing where you rehab Bush and you rehab people that worked under Bush. I don't know if you're gonna have exactly the same kind of thing play out when it comes to Trump's people. I mean, there was just such a disconnect between reality in a lot of cases and how a lot of those people came out and talk. I mean, look at all this this legal challenge bullshit. You know, they have to know it's crap, and there's not even a concession on board. So, and there's not gonna be
That's what
one.
I'm saying.
So,
Yeah. These are, you know, and like I said, like in a lot of ways, I feel like the racial agitation in this year has been more so than at any time I've ever seen. Right, this is more like mask off than I definitely in my lifetime. But you know, maybe Reagan did some shit I don't remember when I was like real little, but I never, you know, the looting starts, the shooting starts, and just the way he referred to like BLM as like thugs, and, you know, criminals and terrorists and all. Like that's, you know, it's pretty indisputable. Then like, I don't know, that doesn't work. It doesn't prove anything anyway. It's like, how do you know, like, you know, those black people that voted for him weren't like, yeah, like I know he's a racist, I don't care, you know, like it's like,
all right, what else we have on here?
Oh, the Facebook thing.
Okay, right. Let's go.
All right.
When you talk about that, Zuckerberg was up on the Hill again. That's always fun to see a bunch of old congresswomen and congressmen try to understand tech. So there you go. Let's go to the Wired article. Let's see. The Senate Section 230 discourse somehow keeps getting dumber.
Yeah. Remember last time when they brought him there?
Yeah, and he was there having to explain Facebook.
Well, they were asking, like, they were all asking some variation of, why am I shadow banned? like,
right.
You know, why am I not getting none of the likes that I think I deserve, right? It's all like...
from this back up, okay, so do you want to explain what the Section 230 thing that they're having this whole deal over?
Yeah. It basically, it provides, like, you know, website, like web publications, like they get them so they're not legally liable for content, like user content created on their site. Right. So like comments, you know, like if you do an article on like, you know, NewYorkTimes.com in the comment section, right? At 230 is what allows them to put that there. Otherwise, they would be responsible in terms of like libel and slander laws for all of the comments on there.
So for acting as a publisher of that kind of content, right?
Yeah. For instance, like you would be, you know, they would be liable for saying that Trump was like an agent of a foreign government. That's like per se, you know, even against a public figure, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, look what it says here. According to the last tech CEO's public flogging a mere 3 weeks ago, while nominally about Section 230, was really more like a public venting section in which senators aired their grievances against social media and tried to work the refs ahead of the election.
Mm-hmm.
So this hearing was titled "Breaking the News: Censorship Suppression in the 2020 Election." Was more of the same, and it was scheduled after Facebook and Twitter each took steps last month to limit or block. Oh, this was about the Hunter Biden story. Yeah. Okay, so because I mean, I remember from what happened, there was like a universal ban on that article where Twitter didn't let you link it, Twitter didn't let you DM it. Facebook did similar measures in order for that story not to spread around on their platform. And then it made that story worse than what it actually ended up being because...
How fucked up is that, though, that they can just take it? I mean, they weren't allowed to, like, delete it, though, right? Like, it's not like...
What do you mean delete it, though?
Like, they weren't able to, like, keep it from coming out. You know
what
I'm saying?
No, they're
like,
not going to be... Nobody can do that.
Think about how they could do that in the future, though, right? They could just... you know, like the CIA, like the intelligence agencies, the NSA, more likely, they have they have you know what I'm saying? They have every communication that's sent in the country, right? They
Right.
have all the servers. So like they know when something's being published, right? It would be possible for them to just grab it before it even like the second they hit send at New York Post and just completely erase it from the, you know, the knowledge stream, right? Like they could, you know, like cover up atrocities, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they would pull the trigger too, because we also saw that they weren't letting the Bolivia stuff go.
Right.
Remember, like they weren't letting
Right, and then
articles
they
about
were
Bolivia
censoring stuff
trend.
from Jacobin too. Remember that was that
Yeah,
whole flare up between Jimmy Dore and Anna Kasparian.
it was fun. It's sick, man. Like I don't know, like we need to do something with tech CEOs. It's just like there's so
Here we
much shit
go.
going on, right?
Senator Ted Cruz badgered Dorsey about Twitter's decision to add labels, pushing back against claims of voter fraud. You're a publisher when you're doing that, he barked. You're entitled to take a policy position, but you don't get to pretend you're not a publisher and get special benefit under Section 230 as a result. So yeah, that was one of the things that
They don't really get special benefit.
no,
though.
but
Like,
they're complaining because the Twitter is putting those little annotations that this claim has been disputed, or I mean it's the same thing that they're doing on YouTube now, where they're putting like, oh, the election results are so and so, or you know, if you look up a conspiracy theory, they link you to a bunch of scientific articles saying why it's not true, and you know all that kind of shit. I mean, they're complaining about that. I mean, they're complaining about that sort of thing, but I mean,
it's like I said with Trump. It's like the whole thing that they were full of shit, so then he could take it to the next level and be
Right.
really full of shit and still claim it's fake news.
right, and then they that whole when he tweeted out, "I won the election," and you see underneath Twitter put that little annotation like, "This claim has been, or the election has been decided differently by by official sources." Like, I mean that's really what their problem is, that they can't bullshit with that without some kind of dissenting voice on their tweet. But I mean that's one other thing. But so Cruz is simply,
I actually, you know what? I'm changing my mind on that. Like, I'm okay. I've been pretty hardcore against it, like the censoring and all. But like,
because
I'm actually not opposed. If it's a situation like this where it's like there's concrete yes or no things, right?
Right.
I hate to say this because it could be such a gray area, but like I'm okay with them correcting the record, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean it kind of makes
to
sense
stuff
in
like
certain
this.
instances, as far as
I'm
okay,
just-
yeah,
yeah.
that's not actually how things went down, but
I'm just so sick of them being able to get the bullshit with impunity.
well,
You know, like I wish they would do it to the Democrats too. Like,
well, they
you know.
damn well should, but I mean, let's look at what they said about Cruz here. So Cruz is simply mischaracterizing how Section 230 works. The law protects any interactive website from being sued over content posted by users, whether it's a Facebook post, comments at the bottom of a Washington Post article. It doesn't matter whether the company is a publisher or not. The reason Twitter can get away with labeling a tweet false is not Section 230. It's the fact that even absent the law, such an action would not raise any sort of legal liability. If it did, it would be impossible to run any kind of news organization. The essence of publishing is deciding what's true and what's false, what is and what isn't fit to print. These judgments would be impossible if they routinely put any publishers in legal jeopardy. This is why the First Amendment makes it very hard for public figures to sue for defamation, even without Section 230. So lawmakers will have very little recourse when it comes to mean tweets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there we go. This is the part that probably makes it stand out more. Was today's hearing did little to dispel the notion that Congress is hopelessly behind the curve when it comes to regulating the tech sector. That's a shame, because we've seen that this doesn't have to be the case. The House of Representatives has long played second fiddle to the Senate, but the recently concluded investigation by the House Antitrust Subcommittee was a model of informed policymaking that put Section 230 kangaroo courts to shame. The key difference was the House committee spent a lot of time and energy investigating Silicon Valley and managed to arrive at a shared bipartisan understanding of what problems are posed by the biggest firms, even if Democrats and Republicans disagree as to the right remedies. In the Senate, by contrast, The two parties are operating in alternate universes where Republicans complaining about social media censorness, while Democrats urge them to prohibit even more content. Unfortunately, the dynamic that Donald Trump's election defeat doesn't seem to have dislodged. So I mean, the idea here is that they just don't know enough about what they're trying to attempt to regulate. And
Sounds like the Senate knows what they're doing.
yeah, well, the Senate, I mean, the House of Representatives, you mean?
Yeah, well, whatever, one of them.
Yeah, so I mean, the Senate, that's the problem with them. They don't know enough about what they're regulating, and then you have Republicans on one side saying that you can't limit our bullshit, and the Democrats are saying limit their bullshit more, and just don't touch mine, ignore mine. I guess is there.
Well, theirs is the state sanctioned
Mhm.
bullshit. You know, like this is the official, the New York Times line, so to speak. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
this is
CIA mouthpiece.
Yeah, look at this part. This is funny. So Lindsey Graham, the dude again, let's see, gave some sense of what that looks like on a Senate level when he punctuated his round of questioning by asking Dorsey and Zuckerberg if they've seen the Netflix documentary The Social Dilemma. As my colleague Ariel Pardes recently observed, that film advances critiques of social media platforms that feel stale in 2020 while offering little in the way of solutions. In that sense, Graham could have hardly picked a better reference.
What? Who said that?
Graham was asking if they had seen
Who's
this
that quote
documentary.
from?
That's from the article.
Lindsey Graham's quote?
No, the Lindsey Graham was just asking if they'd seen the movie on Netflix, The Social Dilemma. See, so this is from the author. My colleague Ariel Pardes. See, no.
Lindsey Graham gave some sense of what that looks like on the Senate when he punctuated his round of questioning by asking. So that's all he knows. That's all he asked. He just asked if they'd seen it.
That was the way he punctuated his questioning, was by asking if they'd seen that documentary.
What? And that was him trying to be like hip.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
in the know.
Yeah, and then it just comes off as horribly out of touch and out of date, and not with where he needs to be.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what his best bet is, though, right? Like they want to slow play this. Probably they don't want any kind of ruling on it. You know, they don't want any kind of like clarification, and they don't want it to leave committee, basically, right?
Right.
So it behooves them to just play dumb. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I think they're still dumb, you know.
Yeah.
But I think they're playing it up just because it's more strategic to keep it stalled out there. Because even if the House does something, it makes a determination. They don't have to act until, whenever, right?
Yeah.
Let's
see.
I mean, what are they going to do? They're just so not up to the task.
Well, I mean, there's
Like,
definitely an argument for adding regulations to big tech. You know, I'm not saying that there isn't, but I don't know. Like, they spend so much time on there using those platforms to try and reach people and try to go and spread their misinformation a lot of the times. That, I mean, they don't bother to really learn about the intricacies of what they're using, I guess.
It's so...
And it comes off as a sort of situation where you're trying to teach your parents how to use an iPhone.
But it's so nuts. Like, there's no due process.
Right.
You know? Like, it's
I mean, the answer for a lot of this stuff, I mean, I feel like a lot of the answers around how to regulate big tech is you need these things to be public utilities.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
so...
Or at the very... They don't even need, like... Yeah, that would help. Obviously, that should be the case. Like, it should be regulated as such. But, like, they can at least invent a new standard that's, basically, like, gives them that credit. Gives them that level of accountability, that level of review.
They
put something.
The disconnect comes when you try to fit these tech companies or these social media platforms into these antiquated boxes from shit that they know or from laws that have been on the books.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's not up to
section 230 is from 1996. And
Well,
as
there's
much as
that,
maybe people don't want to think about it, but I mean, how long ago was 1996? 24 years ago, more. By
well,
next
there's
year.
that CISG document.
Uh-huh.
I forget what it's called. There's like a legal document they've started putting together, like like they have like restatements. It's kind of like a restatement of tech law.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've dealt with this stuff, but it's like it's having these courts. There's no court that's really like unless the Supreme Court does it, but like there's not really anybody that's qualified. There needs to be some like there needs to be like a decision making process. They need to like sit down and figure it out and do it at an official level. And it's just like I said, they're not qualified to do it. And then like there's not in any hurry to do it. So like just going to continue on like this with like Facebook executives and like Jack Dorsey deciding to like censor the president. It's so fucking crazy. It's not a court. It's not some official review. It's just basically like a tech bro being like, oh man, I don't know, bro. Like,
well, I mean, there's terms of service that they apply, and they don't apply them equally to public figures.
So I'm saying it's so willy nilly. There's no review. There's no due process. There's nothing. There's not even like you submit this document and we review it. It's not even any kind of official
and then forget
thing.
about like a review process from users if they censor something, or a lot of times there's these weird stretches or just not even stretches, like there's inequities in how they apply stuff like copyright. So like you and I, like we'll use a clip or something and we'll talk over it, we'll remix it or something like that, and then we'll get flagged for a copyright when it's not anything compared to what the original incarnation of the source material is. It's completely repurposed. And then apparently that's supposed to be under fair use if you use it in certain ways.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to law school, that was fair use. I don't know why that would be differently now. It's like I'm saying, the tech companies are implying their own standard, and there's no official precedent for it.
And then that affects a lot of people that try to make a living off of going onto these social media platforms because they're immediately demonetized. And news moves so fast. Once something gets demonetized, nobody's gonna go ahead and look for it again. You're not gonna retroactively get credit for those views and those clicks that you had for that duration.
Well, yeah, and then there's no way to there's no labor rights. Like there's no sort of ability to organize. And
as far as online communities, imagine you had like some kind of union of YouTubers and Twitch streamers.
A posters union, yeah, man.
Yeah, a posters union for people to go ahead and demand changes from all these people that are just willy nilly, like you said, applying whatever terms of service they think fits, and forget about issues like among posters that just go ahead and just re-upload exact videos. Without adding any context to it, they're just kind of stealing material from it.
What is that?
You see that a lot of times. Like you see one video of maybe like somebody doing an impression or somebody like random YouTube shit, and then it just gets re-uploaded to a different channel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that shit goes on all the time. Where's the protections for small YouTubers or all those kinds of YouTubers that do that kind of shit?
But then they can just change like the payout and stuff, like the ad revenues and all, and there's no.
Yeah, they can, and for larger channels, they'll do that. They'll tell you like if you like we've gotten hit with this thing where you use a clip from Now This, right? If we put that on there, even if we're talking over it, even if we're adding our own commentary, they'll say this video has been repurposed to be monetized to this channel because you use this clip and all that other kind of shit. So we have every time we put up a video, we have our picture in picture on there, right? So it's not the same thing. You've altered it in some way. You're using that video as a basis to form your own commentary.
Yeah,
it's independent work at that point.
Yeah, and there would be like a court case to be able to prove that too, but there's nobody qualified to do it, and there's nobody that's looking forward to putting that center stage.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. All right, bro. Why don't we sign off there? Though we're gonna end up losing our average viewers. Speaking of which.
So I want to see. There's no video of Zuckerberg getting roasted.
I'm not sure. Maybe there is one.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. So we'll be back up on tomorrow, everybody.
Let me see if there's anybody. Anybody else on? See if we can rate somebody.
Yeah.
I usually don't look because it's so late. Usually
Yeah. Well, we're
earlier.
yeah. I think the coming up a little bit earlier is probably a good idea. At least we have people that are on at the same time as us.
Okay. All right, let's go.
All right.
All right, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Later.